And we're back, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. Here's an interview that IGN did with Todd Howard, I think he's producer at Bethesda Software, overlooking various projects, and he has recently spoken out to IGN about Fallout 76 disastrous launch. So here's the segment in the interview about Fallout 76, and I'll try and comment as we go through the interview. So let's do this.
I feel that we've done really well with it, but there are times where we haven't, and we try to catch ourselves very quickly on those.
Yeah. Fallout 76 is a big fall game, not under your personal, this team here at Rockville's.
There was a lot of people here involved in it, yeah.
It was Austin. The Austin team were they the kind of...
The Austin studio, the whole studio in Austin's working on it. I think they've done a really incredible job, but there's a lot of people here in Rockville and in Dallas and in Montreal.
Everybody.
That was a lot of people.
So here Todd confirms that there were a lot of people. He says a lot of people working on Fallout 76, which can present a problem. If you have various studios working on one project, the end result might be kind of a mixed bag, much like Rage, for instance, because that was a co-production by id Software and Avalanche Studio, who did the open world and the driving part, whereas id Software did the first-person shooting. And you do feel that there have been various teams working on that project. So here's Todd confirming Fallout 76's development was basically done by a whole bunch of people. And if you do that kind of thing, you need to have very good project management. So that could have been a problem with Fallout 76.
So that project certainly at launch was simply just not super well received, critically certainly. Do you have an idea of how it's going to land, or were you caught off guard by the launch of that game?
We knew we were going to have a lot of bumps. That's a difficult development. A lot of new systems and things like that. Hey, we're going to go try this new thing. And anytime you're going to do something new like that, you know you're going to have your bumps. You know that a lot of people might say, that's not the game we want from you.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's Todd confirming that he knew that the game would face a bunch of bumps in the road. And he knew that it would not be well received. And what was he saying? The last thing was also interesting.
But we still want to be somebody who's trying new things.
Wait.
That's a difficult development. A lot of new systems and things like that. Hey, we're going to go try this new thing. And anytime you're going to do something new like that, you know you're going to have your bumps. You know that a lot of people might say, that's not the game we want from you.
That's not the game we want from you. But the fact is that I remember Todd on E3 last year saying that this is actually something that I as a player want to play, right? That's how he sold it last year. Now he's saying, well, it's not really the game that the Fallout community is going to expect. But he still sold it as this is Fallout, but with friends, and it's a full-fledged RPG.
But we still want to be somebody who's trying new things. And that was a very difficult development on that game to get it where it was. And we were ready for, a lot of those difficulties ended up on the screen, and we knew, hey, look, this is not the type of game that people are used to from us, and we're going to get some criticism on it.
Yeah. So he's saying we knew that we were going to get some criticisms, but why is he only speaking out right now? Which I don't get. I mean, this game is almost out for a year, and this is the first time Todd is sitting down and talking about it. And if he knew right from the start, from release, that this game was going to be criticized, why hasn't he stepped up on the plate right from the start and tried to explain the game to the media or the gamers, right? Reach out and say, okay, right from that point on, this is not a good game, but we're going to work very hard to make it great. So we're almost a year into this game, and it's just still not great.
And a lot of that very well-deserved criticism.
Because that's
okay. So well-deserved criticisms. He confirms that, which is a good thing. By the way, I have deep respect for Todd. He's a guy who obviously loves doing what he's doing, loves games, and he also is quite honest about the fact that he wanted to try something new with Fallout 76, and it just didn't work out as planned.
I mean, you'd been on like quite the hot Las Vegas type of winning streak.
Sure.
You personally, like a Todd Howard, your
Sure.
name on something. So that was.
But we knew that going into this. We knew it's
Yeah.
not that, right?
Yeah.
You would say, look, this isn't a game, even from the beginning, this is not going to be like, high Metacritic game. That's not what this is.
This is not going to be a high Metacritic game. He knew that, which just blows me away. So he knew that it was not going to be well received. It's going to be a subpar product. He confirms that this was not a good game right here. And a year ago, he was selling the game like it was the next step into the Fallout evolution. So this is not very honest.
Given what it is. But we felt strongly this is a game we want to play. This is something we really want to do. And all of the games like this, whether it's us or somebody else, you can go back and look at them. There's a period once you launch. It's not how you launch, it's what it becomes. And, can't be prouder of the team that's worked on it. They've worked tirelessly, and it's really turned around. It's a fabulous game and an incredible community around it.
Okay, so here's Todd saying it's not how the game is released, but what it will become in the future, which is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statement, because at launch, people are enthusiastic about it. They want to play it. They want to experience the game at that point. And with these so-called live services, like Anthem, Fallout 76, and others, Division, you have to have a good product on release, because you want to have the player interaction. You want to draw the crowd in for your game, right? Otherwise, you lose the crowd, because in 4 or 5 years, when Fallout 76 might be in a perfect state, people are playing something else. They don't want to play Fallout 76, because along the line there will be new games coming out, and they will jump on the other train, so to speak.
How do you is there a strategy for kind of getting over that, shaking the reputation that it got at launch and kind of winning people back over?
I think, there's no strategy other than just keep making the game better. And people who play it, and they'll come back. And by the way, it's been very popular, right? So
yeah.
It was a huge release for us. The community around it's really, really strong. Obviously, it got a lot of criticism and stories, and we see all that. And it's not, you don't want to read that, but it is what it is. And again, we deserved a lot of that. So
You don't want to read that. You don't want to read the criticisms, the stories. That's what he's saying. And I understand that from a developer's point of view, that it's difficult to listen to criticism. It's difficult to listen to other people saying that the game is not that good. But I expect Todd to be more professional and to pay attention to criticism. And I'm not sure if Bethesda is doing that.
So It's just working the issues. Like, hey, what do the consumers want? What do we want? How do we get there? This is a very long tale for us in this game, and there's some awesome stuff coming this year that I think people are going to see at E3 and be hopefully very excited.
Over the course of your career, have you been a guy that's read reviews?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I read them all.
So you got to read the good and the bad ones, right?
Absolutely. I read all the comments, and look, I've experienced it all, right? We've had the games that hit the high 90s and win all the games of the years, and we have the ones that don't as well, and that kind of comes with the territory. I think it's part of the job to read all of that. And
Okay, so here he confirms he does read the reviews, but the problem here is that Todd, again, only speaks out so many months after the release, and the reviews were out quite soon after the release of Fallout 76. And why hasn't he spoken out then? You know, why, if he knew going into the project and he knew at launch that it wasn't a good product yet, he should have just stepped on the plate again and say, okay, listen, it's not it's not the quality that you guys were expecting, but we're working very hard to do that. And, so many months later, him telling me that there's so many good stuff coming in the coming months, it's just, I'm not sure if I'm interested anymore, right? And I'm not going to wait for 3 or 4 years.
whereas I don't always like the grammar or adjectives they use. I think the intent is always, even like a very mean-spirited comment from a fan, I think the intent behind that is actually well-meaning.
Yeah, there can
like
be a
they
kernel
they
of-
love these games.
Yeah.
And they're super important to them, and they're important to us. So I think you have to dig into that and say, okay, where could we have done better? Yeah.
So on that,
Okay, so where could we have done better is a good question. So, yes, I agree with Todd on this point.
like if you knew going into 76 that it was maybe gonna be a little bumpy, what when it actually comes out and you see the real world feedback and reaction to it, and what have you learned from 76?
Well, the main takeaway we had was you got to let it bake with a large live audience for longer than we did. There's just certain things you can never see until it's running 24/7 for a number of months. So, if there's one thing that we could have, I think I would have done differently, is find a way to let at scale people be playing the game 24/7 before you say, everybody in.
Okay, so here's what he actually is confirming, that it was prematurely launched and it wasn't properly tested. That's what he's saying, which again confirms that it wasn't a good product at launch, and it needed a lot more attention, more time in the oven, so to speak, which is pretty ridiculous because he knew that it didn't have enough time to bake, basically, but they still decided to release it, which is probably a decision that had to do with money, of course, that they had to ship it out to recoup the development costs, etc. But this is actually quite a betrayal of the gamers, because again, he knew that he was releasing a subpar, a poor product on the market, and a product that a year before that, basically today, he was really boosting about, and that it was going to be a great experience, which it wasn't.
Here you go, pay us.
So if for instance, if maybe you wish you'd launched that into Steam Early Access,
Whether
or Xbox Game Preview, and
or something like that,
those whole
or
things.
Okay, you're a Fallout 4 player, we're going to let you in the beta for free for this period of time.
Yeah.
Things like that
Yeah.
that I think would have made a world of difference in how the game hit on day one. but it still probably would have had some issues, but we would have had a better look at what they were.
Right. Do you think 76 has had any lasting sort of damage to Bethesda's reputation or Fallout's reputation?
I'm sure it's had some. It would be naive to say it's had zero,
Yeah.
right? But I think if people come to the game now and see what's going on there, I think they'll be surprised. I'm really, really proud.
Okay, so he confirms that yes, reputation of Bethesda has suffered because of this, and I agree. You're only as good as your last game, and the last game in this series, at least the RPG Fallout series, is 76, and it just wasn't great. And again, he is emphasizing the fact that if players are coming back now to the game, then they'll have a great experience. I don't think so, because at the core, it's still the same game, right? It's still the empty world with no NPCs, with basically only audio logs or terminals, and just not great first-person shooting. So that core mechanic or that core blueprint of the game is not something that you can correct or change in the coming years. The only thing you can do is to, do the fixing of bugs and add more content, more events, DLC probably, where you get to do more quests or something like that. But you can't change the blueprint of a game once it is released.
Of what everybody's done in the game, and because I know where it's going, I think we're definitely long-term believers.
Okay, so he's a long-term believer in Fallout 76, and he knows where it's going, but he's not really sharing that here. So where is this game going then? What is the end goal? I don't know.
In what's going to be happening with that game, but more so us engaging with the people who play our games every day. And so it was partly that for me, which is if you look at a Skyrim and Fallout 4, those things, the amount of people that play those games still is, I mean, you can look it up on this. It's staggering.
Yeah.
So now he's referring to Skyrim and Fallout 4 being very popular games, and that he wants to engage with people about that. I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean more monetization? Is that what Bethesda is saying here? Or is it a actual dialogue between gamers and Bethesda? He's very vague here. I don't really believe Bethesda wanting to discuss their games with gamers on a equal level, because Bethesda, if you go back in time, Bethesda has always been trying to get more money out of their games, right? They have released Oblivion, and they introduced the horse armor, if you can remember that. And people were outraged by that. Then they released Fallout 4, and they wanted to do their own mods because they saw that modding was so popular, and they wanted to monetize the modding scene, basically. So they introduced their own creation club that just didn't work, by the way. So the engagement that he's talking about so far has been, okay, how can we get more money from the players?
Millions and millions of people every month playing those games, and we have no touch point with them. Right? It's just like, we ship the game, we do some mod stuff, but here you go.
We did some mod stuff, and here you go. So I guess that Todd here is clarifying his position on mods. Here you have some mods. So there you go. That's what he says. Which to me feels like sort of a betrayal of modders, because the thing is, I think, why Skyrim and Fallout 4 are still so popular. It's not because the vanilla games are so good. They are fun. They are great RPGs. But it is the modding community that adds new stuff, new mechanics, new quests, just complete storylines that gets people coming back to these games and play them. That's what's keeping these games alive. Not inherently the quality of those games, but more what the players can do with these games. And Todd saying here, well, we did some mods and here you go, feels like, that the mods stuff, or he confirms that the mod stuff is more of an afterthought. Again, a way to monetize their games that millions of people are playing.
The 76 was also, we need to learn how to be engaging and being able to update and see what players are doing and like be more engaged in that experience than zero, right? So
it's got to be. I don't know how much time.
I mean, zero. There's no interaction. I mean, interaction starts by reaching out. I haven't seen Bethesda or Todd reaching out to the players in a meaningful way. There's been silence in months, and now Todd is saying, yeah, we need to go back and forth with players. I don't really believe that.
You spend sort of looking outward at things, but it's got to be reassuring when you see a No Man's Sky or a Sea of Thieves, some of these other similar kind of service-based games that have that did launch poorly in some capacity or another, but have over time through many an update like come back to a place where they're now very well regarded and very well liked.
But more than that, it's actually all of them. Right, yeah, I won't go through the list. But
Yeah.
You could take most popular online games and go back to day zero, and they're going to go through their problems. And you're seeing that kind of across the industry.
Yeah.
That was the part we...
So we're seeing across the industry, Todd says, that at launch these games suck, and then, after a while, they get better, these games. So obviously the industry now is at a point where it's okay to release buggy, shitty, just very prematurely developed games at launch and dump those on players and work on them in the future. That's where the AAA industry is right now, which is kind of really depressing to hear Todd say. It's not common anymore to have a game with multiplayer options, or to have a game that at launch is finished, is in a playable state. And that's where we're at right now. And that's what a very loved franchise like Fallout is at right now, which is so sad to me.
I was to say, that's the part we knew going in. No matter what we do, we're going to have some problems, and we need to make sure we're ready to continue that momentum from before release, right through it.
Yeah.
Our own Elder Scrolls Online.
That's
Right.
true. That's a good one.
That's a good one. It's our
Yeah.
own company, right? So they helped us on this game. They gave us a lot of vision as to here's how things are going to go. They've helped us post-release. And so our own company has been through that, where ESO, the launch, wasn't a well-received game.
Right.
And that team did incredible work. And you look at ESO now, it's one of the most played MMOs across every platform. It's incredible.
Yeah, an 8-figure million player base.
So that's just within our company.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fallout New Vegas, super well liked.
Yeah.
Very beloved over the years. Was there ever any thought to doing another Fallout game with Obsidian? Obviously, they're owned by Microsoft now, but did that ever go anywhere?
I wouldn't say there were conversations. Look, love those guys. Fergus is one of I think one of the great people in the industry, and we've always had a great relationship with them. We like to keep it internal because we know what we want to do. So it is, if we can keep it internal, we would. And now that they've been bought, you never say never,
Yeah, ship
but
sailed.
it makes it highly unlikely. I'll say that.
All right, so obviously we're moved on from Fallout 76 to New Vegas here, and Todd Howard really confirms here that it hasn't been a actual strategy to continue with Obsidian, to do another Fallout game with them, and to keep it in-house, which basically says that they don't have any plans. They didn't have any plans back then, don't have any plans for the future to do that kind of a thing, because they're now focusing on this open world, persistent multiplayer thing, because that's where the money is, where the millions of players, it's a way of trying to monetize. Maybe I'm skeptical here and sarcastic, but still, it's obviously it's not in the cards to do another co-production with Obsidian.
And there were obviously very few people when the New Vegas thing came up, because we were going to be moving on to Skyrim. Hey, we want more Fallout. Like, another thing, this is a hit. What are you going to do next? We're like, Skyrim.
All right, so I guess we've moved from Fallout 76 to other games. But this is what I wanted to really highlight from the interview with Todd Howard. So I'll keep it at that. I hope you guys like my comments and or my commentary. And see you next time.